Hello, everyone. My name is William Giron, and I'm the Executive Director for Artes de la Rosa, Cultural Center for the Arts, here at the historic Rosemarine Theater. We hope each of you and your loved ones are doing well and keeping safe. Today, we're excited to announce the world premiere of Pauline and Louis play that was filmed here at the historic Rosemarine Theater several weeks ago. We're joined today on this discussion with my co-host Cecilia Hill, with the historians of Latino Americans of Tarrant County, and Richard Gonzales, the playwright, director, and producer of the play. So pass on the baton to you, Cecilia. Talk about the organization if you'd like, and then we get into the discussion.
Yes, thank you, William. Thanks for having us. Yeah, so I'm here representing HOLA. We are an organization formed from educators, historians, community activists, journalists, directors of theaters. So several of us got together and decided we wanted to create something that would allow for us to educate the public about the history of Latinos in Tarrant County. So far, our focus right now has really been Fort Worth, but we do have a member who works at UTA, and so we hope to reach further out into beyond Fort Worth. But for now, we're doing our best to promote that history. So we do that on our website, holatarrantcounty.org, and on our Facebook page that you can also find, HOLA, H-O-L-A, Historians of Latino Americans. But we're here today to talk about the play that Richard Gonzales wrote and directed about two very important people in Fort Worth Mexican American history, two people that created change for this community, to honor them, and Richard has done a wonderful job doing that through his film. So I wanted to start off by just asking, what motivated you to write this play, Richard?
Well, I knew these individuals. I have the good fortune to have lived long enough to have known these individuals during their lifetime when they were very active. And I always was really impressed by what they were doing, their activist role. Pauline, of course, after I had some more history, I learned more about her background in life. But when I knew her in her prime, so to speak, she was always out there in the community, drumming up people to vote with voter registration, bringing out the issues, speaking at City Hall, City Council meetings, at school board meetings. And I knew at the time that she was a single mother of four daughters. And I was just awed by her, awed that she had that much energy, that much passion for trying to bring social change for the betterment of the Latino community in Fort Worth. I was just inspired by her. And Luis Zapata is the first Latino who took Fort Worth City Council Latino. And I knew him also when he was alive. And I happened to see him in action. He just was a very suave individual. He didn't speak harshly. I mean, he just had a way of manipulating the system and going up against some establishment individuals on the city council, and just working with him. He was raised in Fort Worth, right there in an area called El Pozo, El Ho, and then just through strong efforts on his own part, he was very smart. He just got promoted quite a bit in schools, and I just followed his history. And then when I saw him run for office, he used to put these placards on the city buses that said "Viva Zapata," and I was just taken aback. I had never seen that in Fort Worth, that somebody would be that bold to do that, but it worked for him. So both these individuals were dynamic Latinos in Fort Worth. They were pioneers, raising the voice and concerns of Latinos, and during their lifetime. So I felt it was time to bring them back to life, in a sense, through these plays, to dramatize the issues that they were confronting. The more I researched them, I realized they had to do some sacrificing, personal sacrifices that impacted not only themselves but their families, in order to contribute to the community at large, not only the Latino community, but really the greater Fort Worth area. So I was, I guess, an admirer of them, and decided to use my talents as a writer to bring him back to life. When you do research sometimes with people, oftentimes you don't know those individuals, so you have to do a library research and research with their family members, people who knew them, look over photos, and that's a great way of doing that if you don't know them. But I had the advantage of having had firsthand encounters with them. I was in meetings with them. I saw how they acted, saw how they talked, how they walked, how they interacted with people, how they thought. The other process, of course, was just doing basic research, just like anybody else. I would go to the library, read up about them, looked at photos. I know that TCU did a Latino research project about Latinos. I'm sorry, I don't remember the full name. And so you guys interviewed Pauline in that process. I think by that time, Louis may have already passed away. He passed away in 2014. So I think this was after that. But I had seen also those video interviews of Pauline. And then I also found some video interviews of Louis Zapata. And so I saw that and I read up on them through newspaper clippings. Again, anything written about them, I read about at the library, just like anybody who also would do that.
What was your process in the playwriting, actually, in the playwriting process, and how were you able to locate the actors for this play?
Oh, great question. Well, I'm a writer, so I basically, when I write, I think about it for a while. I take notes. I always carry a pad with me, believe it or not. I'm one of those nerds. Anytime I have ideas, I write them down and then I think about it. But that was the first process, just kind of brainstorming about what I was thinking about doing with them, writing about them. Then I got serious and I sat down and outlined the play. First of all, I did a lot of the research. So I already had the knowledge. I already had it. And it's a matter of organizing that knowledge in a dramatic fashion. This is different than writing an essay or writing a dissertation or writing a book, because this process involves dramatization, bringing people to life. So what I did was I outlined the play. I outlined the conflicts that each of them would be experiencing, and then trying to dramatize that through dialogue. Everything is on dialogue, of course, with playwriting. So the dialogue has to be fresh, crisp, but original. So I remember looking at videos again and again at their faces and how they talk, their mannerisms, how their idioms. For example, Pauline was noted for close friends to say "la dichos," and in our culture, Mexican culture, Latino cultures, they're sayings, right? Dichos means sayings. But she was also very religious oriented. She depended a lot on her faith. And when she would make dichos, she would, most of the time, not all the time, would reference God or reference spirituality or reference drawing strength from her faith. So I tried to capture that idiosyncrasy that she had when she would talk. So I had to keep that in mind to make it seem authentic for her. Now with Louis, I'd heard Louis talk, and he had this kind of Southern, I'm not doing justice to it, and I'm not trying to mimic him, but he had this kind of suave Southern way of speaking with a little Texas twang. And plus he was bilingual though. He could speak Spanish fluently. He studied Spanish in Mexico. So he was multilingual in a sense, but he did it in a suave manner. So I had to try to remember that. And so when I was writing the dialogue for him, I had to keep that in mind. When I was writing dialogue for Pauline, I had to keep that in mind. So I was first I wrote Pauline, and then I had to change hats. Okay, now I am Louis Zapata. And so I had to write Louis Zapata. So it took me roughly about a month of writing. I had already done the research. It was taking me about a month of research and then about a month of actually putting pen to paper, or writing it up, typing it up on the computer, and then revising it. I had some people read it to tell me, how does this sound? Does this sound good? And I'll be honest, even during rehearsals, I also revised again. I would tell the actor, and the actors, I would tell the actors, I said, if this doesn't sound like it's flowing or if it sounds awkward, tell me. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I am open to criticism and open to feedback, because this has got to be good. I want the audience to get a quality production here. So you actors are experienced. You can tell me, and I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. I'm not. At least I hope I'm not that kind of guy. Just be honest with me. So we did changes during the rehearsals, so that what you see in the final product was really a result of changes that was evolving as we went along until we settled on the product at the end. How I got the actors. Monica Perez is the daughter of Americo Perez. Americo Perez is a well-known activist and individual who's been around Fort Worth all of his life. And I had heard about his daughter. He talked about his family, and he talked about Monica being an aspiring actress. And I had opportunity to, she doesn't remember it, but I had met her before one time. And then I looked her up professionally. I looked up her background and saw that she had been in a number of productions, had been in plays, and had also had done some indie films. And I just liked what I saw. I'll be honest. I liked her talents. I liked the fact that she was local. Of course, I was looking for a Chicana, Latina. I mean, that, because she was playing Pauline Valenciano. So I was looking for somebody who, for a female role that was strong, who wasn't shy, that could stand up and speak passionately like Pauline did. And I thought Monica would be the one to do that. So I called her up and anyway, we contacted, and then she accepted, and then we went forward. And I made the right choice. With Rudy Lopez, this was harder. I had to search. I talked to, I think, hope Rudy doesn't get his feelings hurt here, but I talked to 3 people before I got to Rudy, and it just didn't work out with those individuals. I mean, it was, I don't know why it is, but it was just harder to find a male actor one way or the other. And then finally, someone referenced him, and I talked to him. And one of the things going for Rudy, and this is not an insult, or so please don't get upset if I say that he fit the build of Louis Zapata. Louis Zapata was a big man, okay? And I was looking for somebody big. Again, that's not, I don't intend to be that a put down or an insult, but it would prevent me from having to put a heavy suit on him or make him look bigger than he really was. So also when I spoke to him, he's very bilingual, just like Louis was very bilingual. And he had a lot of familiarity with Mexican culture, which I was looking for. We're just like Louis. Louis spent time in Mexico. In fact, the play is set in Mexico. His portion is set in Mexico. So I wanted somebody familiar with Mexico, somebody comfortable with the Mexican culture, but also familiar with American culture. And Rudy was born in the United States. He was born here, but his parents come from Mexico. So everything, the package he presented, and again, his experience, when I looked at his resume, it fit. So I want to say to people, I lucked out. I mean, I hope the writing is good too, but the acting was wonderful. Some people who have seen it, they said, one guy who saw it for the first time said to me, "This surprised me." And I said, "What do you mean it surprised you?" And he says, "It was better than what I thought it was going to be." I didn't know whether to be insulted or not.
Yes, they embodied both Luis and Pauline.
Yeah, I really thought so too. Through my research, I've watched a few interviews of Louis and give some oral interviews. I've read his transcripts of his interviews as well, but I've also watched him on film, and then seen plenty of pictures of him through newspaper or different archives that I've gone through for my research on Fort Worth. And I really thought Rudy, like you said, really fit the bill. I thought he did a really great job. And, the accent, the twang, it sounds like my dad's cousins, like my dad's cousins who are like from more central Texas, or, they always say, "Is that right? Is that right?" There's that accent that comes through. So I could really, relate to that and see that, common in a lot of, Mexican Americans who have been here for quite a while,
right.
Or, born here and stuff. And then with Pauline, I had the pleasure of spending some time with Pauline, and from about 2016 before she passed, in just different events that Fort Worth was doing when the library opened up the Latino American Archives. They had a little get together, and I remember sitting down next to her and talking to her about her experiences. And one of the first things she always wanted to share was about her getting arrested all the time in a safe way. So I thought that was great, to be the center, of her experience, of her voice, and in fact, I had the pleasure of interviewing somebody, one of her contemporaries, and I asked him, did you know Pauline Valenciano? And he was like, yes, absolutely, and then he would talk about her passion, her vibrancy, and he could remember her really, very, very well, even though they probably hadn't seen each other in, 40, 50 years, maybe. They maybe not that long, but probably about 40 years. He certainly remembered her, and I think Monica portrayed her very well in that demeanor. And I think there was a lot of depth there in her struggling with the fact that she's being arrested with her kids, right? That there is that struggle. But when you talk to her, she wouldn't have let that on necessarily, right? She was proud of that. But so I thought that was very well done in the play to think about her in more layers, in a lot of depth. I thought both actors were well done. Yeah, they did a great job there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, did you feel like the whole process of putting on a play? This is your first time putting on a play, right? So, what were the struggles? I mean, I know you talked about trying to find the actors and all that stuff, but what did you feel like? The whole process was? What was the hardest parts, easiest parts? Something you might want to do again, or never going to happen again?
Well, I this is not the first time, to be honest. Some years ago we did a plays for living. I used to work for a counseling agency, and drama is another way of doing. There's a thing called psychodrama, where you create a piece and then you dramatize the mental health issue that's impacting a family. And that's a way of not intimidating the people who do have that mental health issue by seeing this played out. And I was part of that process. We contracted 2 writers to write the play, and then I went ahead and was basically the director-producer. This was some years ago that we did this. So I had some experience in directing and putting together a play, but it wasn't on this level. It wasn't this involved as this one. First of all, I didn't write the other play. It was written by someone else. Right. And so I wasn't necessarily sweating that portion. This I was sweating because I wrote the play. So there was another skit I did before that I wrote, but again, it was more on a juvenile level. It wasn't this level of professionalism. I was an English major in college, by the way, so I studied plays. I mean, that's just part of your expectations. Just like a history major reads a lot of history, English majors read a lot of plays. And you're expected to go to plays and see plays. I acted in plays when I was younger, so I already had a feeling for the drama, the field of drama. So this wasn't like just thrown in with not any experience. I did have experience in that regard. But again, this is more involved because this was going to be filmed. The real first for me was a film. Stage plays is not necessarily first, and although I'm not the dramatist. A film, though, is completely different. Then you're dealing with a cinematographer. I had to find a cinematographer that I would feel comfortable working with. So that was one of the obstacles or challenges, so to speak. I spoke to maybe about 4 cinematographers. I had spoken with William. William had some recommendations for me, and I appreciated William's guidance in that regard. But after talking to 4 cinematographers, going back and forth with my ideas, their ideas, what they can do, basically I ended up landing Logan Gilpin, who's the director of Under the Towers Productions. What I found advantageous with him, not that the others weren't any good, they were all good, but with Logan, the advantage he had is he had worked there at Artes de la Rosa already. He already was familiar with the lights, the cameras, the angles. This wasn't something new for Logan. Logan was just continuing what his work has been done in the past. And later from William, I believe, I heard that he helped set up the lights when they were setting up Artes again. So he had all that going for him. This technical expertise was invaluable to bring forward on this play. So that was very helpful. The other thing, and not that I'm Otto Preminger or Martin Scorsese or anybody like that, but there is a thing about fit. I I already had a good fit with the actors, and the actors, I think, had a good fit with me. But I wasn't sure about Logan or any of the others. There has to be a fit. We have to work together. Then, unlike writing a book or writing an essay or a dissertation, it's pretty much a soul endeavor, right? But doing a film or a play, this is multiple people coming together. And like it or not, there's always the human element about emotionally, are we going to click? Do we work well together? And that is the magic, in my opinion. You can have a great script, you can have great actors, but if you don't get along with one another, that's going to be difficult. But fortunately, the stars lined up, and we all got along with one another. We respected one another. We had ideas. We exchanged with one another. It just fit. So it was. The actors were very easy to work with. I enjoyed working with them. They're young. I thought it was. I didn't know what to anticipate, but I found them very accommodating, very understanding. I wouldn't mind working with them again, maybe in future plays. I'd like to do that. And your question was, will there be other plays? Yes, I think I will write more plays in the future. I like writing. Writing is what I'm going to do until I die, unless my brain breaks out and I can't do it anymore. But
Do you
I
have
will.
any, do you have any ideas as to what type of plays or anything in mind?
I enjoy writing about la gente. I'll be honest, about us. I don't think much work has been done about us, and I'll give you an example. You know, John Leguizamo. We know John Leguizamo, right? Great Puerto Rican actor out of New York. He's been on Broadway. He's been on Hollywood. He boycotted the Emmys this year. And why did he do that? There was not one Latino nominated. And I thought, how shocking. Here in 2020, we're still having to deal with that, right? So I find I want to do work where Latinos are highlighted, where Latinos are the stars, and not to write Cinderella stories or everything's wonderful stories, but to write really what issues we're facing, the conflicts we have within our own community, not only with the dominant culture, but within our own community, to make them realistic, but to give inspiration, education, and entertainment that our audiences will enjoy seeing, and they'll say, yeah, I like to do that. Also, I want to inspire young people to consider the arts as an avenue, for them to think about seriously about as a profession. We have had the arts in our Latino culture for years going back, and I would like them to consider that as a possible route for them if they're artistic. So we as adults, I think, need to create an environment, a venue. That's why Artes de la Rosa is so important to our community, to allow them to express themselves. If a young man or young woman feels that acting bug in them or painting bug in them, whatever artful activity, then we should be able to allow them to express themselves in that manner. But we have to create the venue for them, do we not? So that comes down to economics a lot of times. I mean, let's be realistic. We have to find the financial wherewithal to open these markets up for them. So my other agenda item really was to highlight two young actors that are aspiring to be actors, and I hope they go all the way to get the Academy Award or whatever awards are out there. But I would like to see more drama, Latino actors coming on stage, and then we as a community appreciating the beauty, the artistic power that we have within our community.
Certainly, and a lot of that I think starts, a lot of that goal can begin with education, right? Changing the way that we teach things in school and who we teach about and how we teach those people or those events or those very historical moments. And I think, creating local history is important. When was part of a project for Fourth ISD in creating some curriculum, and we did some focus groups with community members, parents, teachers, students, and we did some coding of those interviews, and the conversation about local history was important to a lot of them. That was one of the things that popped up in a lot of these different focus groups. And so I think it's important for young people in Fort Worth to, young, Latinos in Fort Worth to find ownership in their city and find, see themselves in what's being taught in school. And I think through film, through a film like this, through plays, through arts, is a way to do that, right? I can do my best to write a good dissertation about Fort Worth, Mexicans in Fort Worth, but I'm not sure who's going to read that dissertation or read the thesis, that kind of thing. But this type of medium with the film, this is, I think, a good way to bring that conversation to young people in Fort Worth, and for them to hear about their experiences from somebody who's embodying that person, through this film, through the play, I think is a good way to do that. So I'm excited to have this as a resource for young people in Fort Worth. And so, I hope Artes can, play a part in that too, in us, through HOLA, through your through all of our contacts, and making sure that this play gets its some activity, people watching it and talking about these people and these experiences.
Well, the individuals, Pauline and Luis, they, as Richard has them, they're great civic leaders, and how they're tied, here to the Rosemary Theater, Artes de la Rosa. Luis was a founding board member, and as he mentioned, as Richard mentioned, he was the first Mexican American council member, and he was very played a pivotal role in securing funding, along with some other individuals, to renovate the Rosemary Theater. And Pauline was a patron. She brought her family here. They strong supporters. Both have always been strong supporters. Part of our what our mission statement is dedicated to preserving and promoting, interpreting the art, culture, lives, and history of the Latino community. We were just privileged to have Richard here, and not only is it a world premiere of a play, but at the same token, it's a world premiere for him as a director, playwright, all encapsulated in one element, and also these two great aspiring actors on stage that they got to premiere here at the Rosemary Theater, which has seen a variety of different individuals, for the first time. So we're glad that this play can get out to the community, nuestra comunidad, and we're hoping that it gets to be watched. It is part of history, so we highly encourage it. One question I did have, Richard, is in reference the reasoning because of why the film versus it being a play, the actual play on site. What was the reasoning for taking it to a film format?
Well, again, there's a couple of reasons. One, and the most obvious, I believe, is that we're in the era of COVID right now, and I would feel I'm very concerned. That's my priority: is safety and health of everyone. But at the same time, I don't want the arts to die. And I know there's a lot of places that are hurting during this time period. As we know, businesses are hurting, and the arts is not any different than that. So what I wanted to do is put it in a format that would be accessible to people without fearing that they're going to catch COVID. And the best way to do that is to see it in the comfort of your home, or limited number of people that would see it, possibly. I know schools have gone virtual. Some classes are being held virtual. So this play could be accessible to people in their home through classrooms. If universities or schools decided to go ahead and rent the film or buy the film, saving the students money to have to do all that, it's relatively inexpensive, really. You can then show it and broadcast it. It's an hour and a half, but if you take out the behind the scenes dialogue, it's an hour and 12 minutes. It can easily be put in a class format. You can divide it into halves and then have discussion. So I was concerned about the reality that we're dealing with a pandemic. So I decided that to minimize the risk to the audience, to do it in a film format. But the other reason is that we have not done too many films. There are not too many local films about Latinos, right? So I was thinking, why don't we have more? Why don't I do a film about Latinos that could be seen over and over and over again, rather than and I'm not taking away anything from the thing that I want to see this to be a live production too. By the way, I want to see this eventually when we get out of the COVID era, because there's nothing that really that takes the place of having live theater. I mean, and in spite of the fact what I just said, live theater for me is really intimate. It's a community coming together to observe human beings on stage dramatizing problems, right, and issues and how they deal with them. Nothing takes the place of a live theater, in my opinion. This is second best, but again, because of COVID, we're doing it this way. But that's not taken away again from what I said originally, and that is I wanted to make this accessible to as many people as possible, as easily as possible through this one.
Great. Cecilia, any last words?
No, I mean, I think we need to make sure that people know how to access the film for sure, and encourage all those to, once you watch it, to share it with other people. And if you're an educator, I'd encourage you to show it in your classroom, even if you're not a social studies educator. This is still applicable to many different places, or even if you're not a theater teacher. I think I'd encourage those to let kids see it and see some of the important contributions of these people in Fort Worth to their community.
Great. Thanks, Cecilia. So for everyone who's actually watching, the great news is that we are kicking off next week the celebration of Dia de los Muertos, celebrating the lives of lost loved ones. This is our I believe our 17th or 18th year for Artes de la Rosa celebrating it. It's going to be looking a lot different because of COVID. As Richard mentioned, the safety has always been a priority for us, but even more so this year. So we will be having virtual programming for those that have already seen. We've already have some of the workshops out with our community partners. We'll have performances as well. And next weekend, we will be premiering this film. It will be a ticketed event virtually. $12. Follow us on Facebook. We'll be posting within the next 24 hours more information about it. And then afterwards, that it will be shared for that weekend. And then afterwards, Richard, if you want to chime in as to where else they can purchase it or rent it once we move forward.
Yes.
Yes.
And thank you very much, William, for sharing it from the with the perspective of Artes de la Rosa and Dia de los Muertos weekend celebration. In addition to that, beyond maybe the week that we'll be showing it, that you can access it, you can go to my website. That's Richard J. Gonzales, that's with an S, .com. Richard J. Gonzales.com. That'll take you immediately to my homepage, and it's on the homepage as well as other, it's on what they call a video pics page. But I set it up so that you can immediately go to the film so that you could see it. Richard J. Gonzales. And you have the option, we didn't mention this, that you have the option of either renting it or buying it streamed. Or if you like to have an actual DVD, you can also buy the DVD. And in the DVD portion, I even have Spanish subtitles. You have the option of doing one with the Spanish subtitles or one with just English with no subtitles. I felt that we do have a Spanish dominant community here in Fort Worth, and I wanted to make that film accessible to them as well. So unfortunately, right now it's available only on a DVD, Spanish subtitles. If I get a demand for Spanish subtitles, then I will probably move it on to the stream version. I don't have a stream version yet, but again, it depends. This is the first time it's coming out, so I don't know what the demand is. So I do have a DVD Spanish subtitle version, though, for people who are Spanish dominant or people who want to learn Spanish and want to see how it's expressed. That's available too.
So everyone, I encourage you to participate and see the film with us next weekend. Or if you don't, buy the DVD, support local artists. As Richard said earlier as well, everybody has been hit, and the arts community, our artists, need everyone's support. So again, if you're able to purchase the DVD so that you can have an archive as a history part of your collection, or start a new collection, this is one to keep. So I'd like to thank both of you for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you all in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, William.